personality disorder. That was the diagnosis from the doc, but what does that even mean? Seemed so overwhelming. But I thought, if I wanted to know more, maybe others did too. So I guess that's what made me start my blog. The first step was to find out as much info as I could. A healthcare professional gave me a stack of documents, so that was a good starting point. I read about Ocean and the 5 big personality traits. We all have a personality, which includes varying amounts of these traits. It's just part of our makeup. But what makes us who we are? We are biological in that we have a physical body and brain, and our genetics might link with a vulnerability to mental health problems. We are psychological in that we think and we feel and we give meaning to our lives and the world around us. We're also social animals, living in a complicated society, and the circumstances we're in and our experiences have a huge impact. All of these things come together and influence each other and can help us make sense of who we are. Professionals call this the biopsychosocial model. Something I learned pretty quick was to be wary about where I looked for information. There are so many websites that spread misinformation and a lot of experience of stigma out there too. I learned that in a healthcare setting, personality disorder is a psychiatric diagnosis. It's used to help describe a particular set of problems which a person can experience with their emotions, relationships, behaviours, or thinking. But I don't like to think of myself as a problem, just a person with problems. Even the most extreme behaviours can be understood in context to how a person is feeling and thinking at that time. A personality disorder is diagnosed when features called diagnostic criteria are identified. Usually, a diagnosis is given to guide appropriate next steps and support, so it is so important that a diagnosis is made only by a trained healthcare professional. People should not self-diagnose, or they may miss out on the best treatment for them. The diagnostic criteria for personality disorder are that a person must experience difficulties in their relationship with themselves and with other people. Problems arise because the person doesn't know how to express emotions as others would, which contributes to problems across a range of personal and social interactions. These criteria must have been present for at least 2 years and be associated with substantial distress or significant impairment of day-to-day functioning. I found out that this is also known as the 3 Ps and 2 Ds. But again, I'm not sure about the word problem. I don't see myself that way and wouldn't want others to either. So, what happens after the diagnostic criteria are seen to be met? The next step for me was for a trained healthcare professional to determine the severity of my personality disorder. But what does this look like? According to my doctor, the ICD-11, which is the global standard for diagnostic health information, assess severity on a spectrum. It is important to remember that a diagnosis does not define a person, but may be useful in guiding treatment. My blog was getting a lot of support online, and after a while, I was lucky to find a support group for those with a diagnosis. The people I met there helped me to see that there is hope through diagnosis and coping mechanisms to live life to its fullest. As part of the group, we discussed lots of myths and misconceptions around diagnosis, which really broadened my understanding. It seems there's a lot of controversy around personality disorder diagnoses. It was so interesting to hear different people's perspectives. Some people in the group don't like the term personality disorder and have said it made them think that there's something wrong with them as a person, that they can't recover or that their experiences can't improve. But I know from others I've spoken with that this isn't true. Some say diagnosis is a flawed process because there are no objective tests like there are with physical health issues. Others say that because so many very different people can end up with the same diagnosis, that it's not that useful. People have felt that having the diagnosis can get in the way of being seen as a human being. Some say the term makes it sound like the problem is inside the person, when actually it might be an understandable response to what that person has lived through. Calling my experience disordered, when to me it is an understandable and necessary way of reacting to a situation, should not be okay. Instead of thinking of personality disorder as something that people are, I've started to think of it as an experience people are having or going through, and that's really been helpful for me. Although not everyone in my support group might agree, I think it's important that people with the diagnosis and those around them really believe that change and improvement is possible. What we believe can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I believe hope is a necessary ingredient for recovery.